I'm going to start off this video a little different for you all, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to go through some items here. I'm going to talk about what happened in 1988 and 89 as opposed to what happened to me in 1974. If you want to know what happened in 74, go back to my other videos. Let's see this. What is this? Boom. What is it? What does that show you? Okay. I don't discredit people for no reason, so what is that? I mean, there you go. We're plagiarizing people's work, right? Now, I'll keep going. Here's Yoda, and here's a creature from the Vintage manuscript. That's not all. And here's an image of the Russian prototype of the Bartini-Beriev VVA-14. And here you can see a picture of it next to a picture of the Millennium Falcon. Obviously, the design was borrowed along with the name Falcon from Lee Brackett and used in the movie.
Lightsabers, bantering robots, the Falcon. They're iconic elements of the very first Star Wars film. But suppose I told you that these elements, the characters, technology, even specific names and plot devices found in 1977 Star Wars, were first conceived decades earlier. Suppose I told you that long before 3PO and R2, a science fiction series from the 1940s contained two strikingly similar bantering robots named Otho and Grag. And some of the most memorable scenes in Star Wars, like escaping through a garbage chute or using telekinetic force to choke a man to death, appeared in sci-fi stories written in 1944, and light swords first appeared in 1933. And these same stories had characters with names like Ben, Owen, Han, and Kessel, and even multiple spaceships called the Falcon.
Kessel Run.
And all of these stories were written by just two people, husband and wife science fiction authors Edmund Hamilton and Lee Brackett. Lee Brackett, often called the Queen of Space Opera, writes for pulp magazines like Planet Stories and Startling Stories. She was also a Hollywood screenplay writer, primarily for film director Howard Hawks.
So now, not only do we have a book that describes lightsabers and characters named Han, Ben, Owen, and the Kessel Run, which the Millennium Falcon ran in 12 parsecs, if you don't remember that part. And then you go into the other books like Captain Future has two androids in it who bicker and fight just like R2-D2 and C-3PO. Again, Eric Falcon, captain of a ship called the Falcon. And let's not forget tractor beams. Again, I'll have to keep repeating some of these things because I think you're maybe starting to get the picture that I don't think there's anything that George Lucas actually created himself. Now, what's he doing in his movie? That's curious. Now, he admitted on one of the Charlie Rose interviews he did that he didn't like writing. He didn't write. Lee Brackett wrote Star Wars. Now, listen, you got to understand, he didn't like writing. First off, if he wrote Star Wars, how did lightsabers get in it, which were Lee Brackett's and Edmund Hamilton's? How did two robots get in it, which were Lee Brackett's and Edmund Hamilton's? How did the Falcon tractor beams? And you can keep going on, and I got more. And I'm sorry to tell y'all, but he's actually robbed me twice. And the only reason the second time happened is because I didn't remember the first yet. You know, the creative side of me has always been there. I have imagination, which is what I'm trying to explain to everybody here, is that I don't really think George Lucas actually does. He just takes everything from everyone else. These are my babies now because my other two babies in the picture with this Christmas tree passed away right before my wife. I lost my wife, so I got two new babies now, two new fur babies. And, it's... I'm just trying to show you the kind of person I'm not the kind of person who would just go after someone and make you think bad things. But if I didn't know what I knew, I wouldn't know that letterhead from Lucasfilm was the same exact one that they used in 1988. And to show you, I wrote books, and you'll see mentioned here that I've in just this they mentioned two of my books, but they also mentioned My book on reality I wrote when I was 19, and they also mentioned 5 or 6 books. But this guy, he was an idiot reporter. I'm sorry to say, but he was an idiot. He misquoted me so many times I don't even want to get into it. But if you see here, this article was done in Currents magazine in 1997. Very small publishing though. It says I started 5 or 6 books. Now one of those books was called The Rod of Iron, which I didn't finish, but I did write a short version of it. And this is why I know what I'm about to tell you, why I know they used that same exact letterhead in 1988 that they were still using in 2001. Because the letter I'm about to show, this is the review I got for that book, Time Upon Time, and I was going to have it published. Rod of Iron is number 22 on my list of books that I'm going to write and rewrite, because some of them, my original books all got burned in a fire. It's a long story. So did all my drawings, except a couple. I got lucky. This is the same letterhead from the letter. I got back from Lucasfilm, and when they sent it back, it said we don't accept unpublished material. But guess what? My book wasn't in there. Now I start to see elements of my stories in 3 movies. Ghost, Cocoon the Return, and Warlock. Okay? You may not believe this, but now I'm going to go over something else. This is a recent thing I just did, so you all could see. I did it on a paint shop. But this drawing here is almost 30 years old. This one here is probably about 25, and it's a copy of the original because I have the original put up. But that other one is huge. It's a lot bigger than you think. It's like one of those great big drawing pads. So I just want to show you something. And my brother said it looked like Speed Racer's girlfriend, and I just did this. I mean, I don't think it's really her. I know it's not Mansionomic, but I just wanted to show I made that to show him that it could be like a real girl's face. So she was pretty close, not quite. I think if I ever seen her in real life, I would know her, but I used to dream about her, and that's where that picture came from. That's where that drawing came from, and I put it in my book, Rod of Iron, and George Lucas used it, or Lucasfilm. And the thing that shocked me the most was Ron Howard did Cocoon 2, and they took my dream of her and that place, and they put it in Cocoon 2. So they've never had to say anything because nobody's come out and said anything, because here I am right now, so I'm telling you. So I'm not looking for money. I'm not looking for fame. I want them to tell the truth. George Lucas not only stole from me in 1988 and took the Rod of Iron, and he split it up into 3 stories, because if you want to go back and you want to hear exactly more about it, I describe it in a book, in another video called The Dream of Red-Haired Amy, and my last one was called The End of Your Sci-Fi God. So if you want to see more about that, you can go back to that video and watch it. And that's not all he took from me, but the whole thing is what he took. What else he took from me, I didn't even remember until 1999. So I'm not getting into that in this video. This is just to show you how much of a plagiarist he is and how much they steal other people's work. So Big Fat Liar wasn't just an accidental movie. I think it was sort of an admission, but not really, because they tried to make it all fun, and they get even with him in the end, and it's really art imitating life, you know. But anyway, George Lucas admits in several interviews with Charlie Rose. There was another one with that lady. I think it was Stahl, whatever her name was. Leslie Stahl. I think he did an interview with her. He admits that that it was sort of a swashbuckling tale talking about pirates, which relates to the first thing. But I'm not talking about that again in this video. But he says religion is propaganda. Then he goes on talking about creating Star Wars from propaganda. See? So what is he trying to say, really? He's trying to create another God for you. Is that not like almost like an Antichrist kind of thing? Because he never mentions God in any of the Star Wars. That's what I've been trying to get through to people. So many people, even, like I said, on every side, you got libertarians, Republicans, conservatives, or Democrats, and everybody just thinks Star Wars is great, but they don't know. They don't know he's a plagiarist. He's a thief. and he's trying to create like his own God. That's what it really is. That's what it comes down to. Nobody thinks anything bad about George Lucas. You hear all these other people getting involved in stuff in Hollywood. This, like Weinstein and all them. You just got to start looking. Only blind sheep follow without question. And if you don't watch out, you're going to end up like this guy. What a clown show. Anyway, here's some more receipts for you. Gustav Holst, The Planet's Suite. This is Mars, the bringer of war. And if you go listen to this, the whole Mars suite. Also listen to Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, the other ones, because you'll find familiar tunes in them as well. But let me skip up to like 5 minutes here, and I want you to hear this. 5 minutes. Let's go. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Don't recognize that from when the Millennium Falcon was being pulled in by the tractor beams, which were invented by Lee Brackett and Edmund Hamilton, and the Falcon, which was invented, the name, by Edmund Hamilton and Lee Brackett, into the Bay of the Death Star. If you go to YouTube to find this, you'll see Gustav Holst Topic Home. You'll see Gustav Holst Topic, and you go all the way over here. This is the one I've been going to right here. The planets. See, 7 videos. There's 7 planet suites because he doesn't do Earth. And I'm not sure back then they knew there was Uranus, because I don't think there is a Uranus or an Earth in this suites. So what does that leave off? Wookiee? Oh, sorry, he didn't invent that either. They came from a guy named Terry McGovern and supposedly a friend of his who used to hit speed bumps and potholes and say he hit a Wookiee. Here it talks about him, and he took Wookiee from his friend Terry McGovern. Now, the last thing is Jedi Knights in the Force. Sorry, but he didn't invent those either. The Force, actually, there was something similar to the Force, but it wasn't called the Force in Lee Brackett's book, and that name he stole from someone else. You have to go watch my other videos for that. On one last note, he refused to give Lee Brackett credit for Star Wars, yet all those elements I told you about would not be in Star Wars if she had not written it. And then to get a further confirmation, I want you to go to the Star Killers channel, please. Subscribe to him. Go watch his video. It's an hour and a half long. But if you go to it, it's going to give you a little bit more than I put in this video. And again, thanks to the Star Killer. Real quick, I just want to add this to the end of this video. In my old 30-year-old drawing, now this is based on a dream I used to have, and I put it in my book, Rod of Iron. There's a street over here somewhere that I'd always come down. This is actually like a little paved pathway. They were like really smooth, nice. It looked like a park scene. And I would always pass this bridge. There's a little bridge, and the bridges were actually red, so I didn't color those bridges. And I'd pass that one, and I'd always come to this bridge right here. And there's a little bridge here. Let me scooch in on it here. See if I can scoot in a little bit more. There's a little bridge there, and I would cross. And this, so you know, this like I said, this drawing's 30 years old. I never finished it because I spent so many hours trying to draw each leaf in this tree individually. And believe me, the hours I spent doing it, I tried to do a couple other tricks, so that's probably what you see. Here's a couple spots where I tried some other way, but it didn't work so well, and I still ended up having to go back in. But there's so many hours just tied up in these trees already. Which you can't see, there's a cage right here that has animals in it. And big cats, let's put it that way. But anyway, you can't tell, the little bridges cross over this creek, and the creek actually feeds into the lake, and there's a little waterfall here. And If you've seen it in my other little paint shop picture, I actually included it in the paint shop version. Also, behind the house, something that you couldn't see in the paint shop version because I didn't add it actually, is this. There's a white picket fence. You could see that. What you can't see is there was rolling hills of grass behind the house, and there's a road. You see the road going out, and it goes down in between the hills. And again, this picture is actually a large picture, a large sketch pad. So the property itself was still a lot bigger than it looks. And again, if you look right here, which I didn't put the little shed into the paint shop, but I put the dock. I put the fishing dock here, and like I said, I always came in from over here and walked over to this middle path and came up the middle. Sorry, here I go again. Not showing you the bottom here. Sorry. I always came in over here and walked and crossed over here. And the first time I did, the very first time I dreamed this, I got to right here, and I could see Amy standing right here. And the reason I say that's her name is because one time in the dream, I don't know if I asked her if she read my mind or she said her name, and just as she did, it was like something made noise or something and kind of messed up me hearing what she said, and I thought she said Amy, so I've always assumed she said Amy, but it sounded like she said something else after, so I don't really know. Now in the movie Cocoon 2, they take out the animal cage. And again, in the animated, I show the house is only like one story, or the paint shop version, because I didn't feel like spending the time. I just put one big window instead of the four. But it's a two-story house. It's not a one-story. And there's this big cage here. But they took it out in the movie Cocoon 2, and he comes walking along this way up to the front door. Watch the movie Cocoon 2 when Kitty the alien shows him the vision of his future. You'll see a guy standing down on the dock fishing, okay? And he walks past him and he's walking up to the door. And I know it's my dream because I described how it looked, how the sky looked. It was like this golden light. It was hazy golden light. And it was like there was a haze, and it just everything, I don't know, it was so warm. It's hard to explain unless you really can watch the Cocoon 2 video and just get that feeling, like, you know, I can't, even the video doesn't explain it, like being there or dreaming it and feeling it yourself. But again, numerous times I had this dream over 20 years. It started in '87. I had a couple little heartaches. I went through some, trying times, and I started having this dream, the same dream, the same property, the same everything, over and over and over again, 20 years, and it was always me and her there, and I could swear I remember seeing other people there, but and once I think there was kids, and she was walking in the door, and it's the funniest thing. Again, I put this in my other videos. The Dream of Red-Haired Amy was the very first one, which I originally named It Gets Worse 2.0. I talk about it in the other video called The Plagiarism of Star Wars, and I talked about it in I think I talked about it in my last one. I'm not gonna swear to that, but the name of that video is called The End of Your Sci-Fi God. And I'm really trying to expose George Lucas here, and that they have been plagiarizing people's work for really no telling how long. And this is just more proof that I can't. Again, I can only only reason I can tell you that same Lucasfilm logo that was on the envelope that I got in 21 over this incident from 1974. Okay, so I'm not talking about that in this video, was the same exact letterhead I got in 1988 when I wrote the Rod of Iron short story to them, and they took it. In this dream, I put it in that short story because it was going to be included in the book Rod of Iron, and I explained what the wrought iron is about in the other videos. But anyway, and remember, don't ever share your work with anyone without a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, and never ever ever tell anyone anything over the telephone. There's two reasons for that. The first one is that unless you record the conversation, you have no proof of that conversation. The second is if you have a crooked government who actually helps criminals like that and listens to your phone calls. The reason I decided to put my dream in the rod of iron in the first place was because by the small chance that Amy was a real person, because she seemed so real and like she had her own thoughts, I thought if I put her in that book and got it published, what faster way could I find her if she was real? By some strange chance that Amy ended up being a real person, there's 4 questions that only she would know the answer to. What was the first thing she said to me? What was the second thing she said? What was carved into the wooden bridges? And what kind of cats were in those cages? Why I've never said that in any of my books, and I've never said it in any of my videos. One last question. Did you ever notice how evil is the only one who can control light in the Star Wars movies? Or have you ever even thought about that? Still think it all sounds too crazy to be true? Remember, you still have this idiot, and I still have this letter, which I received anonymously after placing an ad in Louisville's Courier-Journal newspaper. And by the way, I never ever actually said it was from a dream. Have a good night now.